Hello, everyone. I am Durgesh, and I'm extremely excited to welcome you to the Enlightening Talk series under the campaign WeLEAP. In this series, we will be hearing from passionate women, both from industry and academia, in aerospace and mechanical engineering streams. Today, I'm pleased to have Dr. Bianca Giovannardi. She is an assistant professor in the Aerospace Engineering Department at Technical University of Delft. She obtained her PhD in computational mathematics from Politecnico di Milano and was awarded a doctoral fellowship. She has also been a postdoc researcher at MIT, working on the soft matter research. She has developed advanced computational methods for synthetic bio-inspired materials and for living materials. She was also selected in Women in Aerospace 2019 Symposium and is recently awarded the prestigious Caltech Young Investigator Award. So with that, without any further ado, I will welcome Dr. Bianca Giovannardi, and let's hear it from her. So thank you, Bianca, for joining.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to be here.
Okay, so I'm so happy that you are able to join us today. And I will start from our first question. Tell us a little bit about what was your inspiration to get into aerospace?
Yeah, so I've always been fascinated by difficult things, and clearly aerospace is a very difficult discipline. I've also been very fascinated by the fact that it's very interdisciplinary. So like you need to know math, physics, chemistry, and like structures, fluid, propellants. So it's a really complete interdisciplinary field. And I think also because this difficulty combined with the interdisciplinarity, that it's really always been the frontier of human knowledge. And beyond this, there is also a very practical aspect to it. There is like the objectives in aerospace engineering are always very clear, like they change through the years, but still it's like they are all very practical and apparently very simple, like make it fly, make it faster, make it lighter, now reduce the emissions. There is always a very clear and practical aim to the research that we're doing. And I was not in the generation that was inspired by the moon landing because I came a little bit after, but I would have been so much inspired by the moon landing if I saw it when I was a kid.
Yeah, I think most of us were fascinated by all the space programs. So
yeah,
tell us
seeing it live would have been awesome.
Yeah. So how about the familiarity of STEM within your family, and when you were growing up, how did you receive support to pursue this career? How was the journey for you?
Yeah, so in my family, like I grew up in a family like all of like people from humanities. So all my both my parents are lawyers, and we have a lot of lawyers in my family. So it's like my parents used to say, I don't know where this science came from, but actually I have two grandparents. One was an engineer, and one another was a chemist. And she was one of actually the first female chemists graduating in Italy. So she was very inspiring for me, even though I didn't actually recall of ever meeting her, but still like the legend of her in my family was very strong because she was one of the first female graduating in chemistry, and she kind of started a business of her own. So she was very active and clearly very smart. So despite the fact that I don't come from scientist parents, they were still very supportive for a science career, but it's not that they could help me with homework, clearly, because they were like, oh, math, no. So in school, especially in middle school, there was also a kind of culture, like coming from the instructors, the teachers, that like the talented students would eventually go and study humanities. So that was a bit hard to fight. So that was not related to female or male. It was just simply that there was this kind of yeah, like this feeling that humanities were really the aim for people who were very talented.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but then I did the scientific training in my high school, and yeah, that all kind of faded away.
yeah. So maybe in a way you were the first woman in aerospace engineering or mechanical engineering stream from your family, maybe,
Oh,
right?
that, yeah, that this is definitely true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. That's what we are trying to do here, to bring all the female role models in aerospace and mechanical engineering. Well, going to the next question, tell us a little bit about your vision during your like high school days. What did you think about your career to be?
So the answer is very simple. I completely had no vision during my high school. So I was just a very curious student. So I had a lot of passions. I liked science very much, philosophy. I also liked a lot literature. I studied Latin, and I really liked it. And then aside from this, I had a lot of passions outside school, like acting, playing soccer, playing water polo. So I was just not asking myself too many questions about career or anything. I was just, yeah, happy to study and happy to do sports after school. The thing that really brought a change, I think, is that a professor in the fourth year of my high school, he gave me a book that is called What is Mathematics? And that is a book by Robinson Courant, and it has a lot of yeah, a lot of mathematics explained, but even some subjects probably from the first years of the university level. So when he gave me this book, I was like, yeah, this is very, very cool. And I spent all the summer reading that book, and I kind of started thinking only about that. I mean, I kind of felt that I also always wanted to go back and think about math problems and read this book. So that was definitely very inspiring for me. And when I had to choose what to do in university, at the beginning I was thinking about doing math, pure math, but then maybe for the reason to like have better employment opportunities, I decided to do mathematical engineering so that it would be still an engineering discipline. So this was pretty much the summary of my vision. I think it's nice to tell you a bit about like the high school system in Italy, because in Italy we have it's not like in the US that students basically choose their own courses, but there is a program, and that is the same for all students. So you are in a class of your mates, and you do all the subjects together. So there is not like a more advanced course on a topic or a less advanced course. It's not that you can tailor your own program. And so receiving this book from one of my professors was really important, because then I started to understand what I was really interested in after the school and beyond the school program.
Yeah, it's very interesting to realize that sometimes even the smallest things done by, our teachers or friends, they do such a, leave a big impact on our life and in a career.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
true.
it's good that we have good people around us. So, what was your biggest struggle during the undergraduate program? And did you ever think that, oh, I don't want to, go for higher studies and I just want to get done with the degree? How was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty fast, meaning that the first struggle that I had was right in the first year of undergrad, and it was I still remember it. It was a computer science class, programming actually class, and in the during the lecture, like the professor was telling all about like floating point arithmetics, and I was like, whoa! I mean, this stuff is like so difficult, and like algorithms and coding, and I never did coding in my own life before. And so I was like, this is way too hard. Maybe I chose the wrong path, and but then I used to collaborate with study with some friends, and so we started studying together, and I started taking coding like a game of like basically me against the machine, like I wanted my computer to do what I wanted it to do. And so seeing it as a game and like having a lot of fun while I was doing it really helped me to go beyond the difficulties. And now the fun thing is that I actually code like most of my day, and during my PhD and postdoc, I was actually coding most of the time. And so this is something that I learned in my first year, in my first couple of years in university. And it was very hard to learn, but then, yeah, I can say that I was successful in learning that.
Yeah, it's great that you found a way to make it fun for you.
No, but that's easy. Like I
Yeah.
find, I'm a curious person, so I would always find something fun and interesting.
Hmm. So what was the best achievement during your undergrad? What would you say?
Okay, so this is a very hard question because I have no recollection of great achievement. I think that the best achievement was actually graduating. That was surviving undergrad. In the first couple of years, I wasn't. I mean, I kind of lived back from the studies that I did by myself during high school. So
Yeah.
the first couple of years I was just going to class and like studying a little bit, but not really studying like super hard. And after some time I realized that if I wanted to graduate I would have had to study very hard. And so like I started working very hard, and then I was successful, and I managed to complete the undergrad. So I would say that this was the best achievement, to understand that I needed to work hard if I wanted to graduate and
Yeah.
actually do it then.
And maybe the decision about going for a PhD program, did you go immediately after bachelor's or did you work in
No,
between?
I took a master. This is in the Italian system is slightly different than the US system. So in Italy, typically you do a bachelor and a master and a PhD. It's not that you can go directly from the bachelor to the PhD if you want to do the PhD in Italy. And most students actually do both the bachelor and the master's. It's really a small percentage who just does the bachelor and then leaves school. So so then I think I matured this choice during my master. I did an internship in a company, and I wasn't really very fascinated from the like from going to industry per se. So I decided to I love to study. I was like, if they pay me for studying, awesome. I mean, this is great. And so I went on and did my PhD.
Great. So how was the experience during PhD program, and what were the major struggles? And then what time did you decide about being a professor?
Okay, this is a long question. So the first struggle of my PhD, I think a lot of former PhD students can see them in what I'm going to say, is the fact that you start researching an area of research that is like very, very wide, and you don't know basically where to start. Like there is so much that you need to catch up on. And it requires so much work, so much literature study before you even understand what is the problem of your PhD. And so this required really, I think I focused like the first year of my PhD only on doing like literature search. And then after that, we came up with an idea, and that was the rest of my PhD. But I was not, I was not expecting that. Like beforehand, this is something that someone does not like maybe underestimates, the fact that you are, starting from scratch a new project on an area of research that is immense. And so this was the first, I would say, major struggle. And related to this, there is another struggle that is with the courses. So I was used during my bachelor and during my master to attend a course, and then there would be a kind of the homework, the exam. They would so you would know that like if you studied this, and that, then you would pass the exam. And it was very clear what it was expected, and it was very clear what you were supposed to know. But when you study for a PhD course, the topic is usually so much at the frontier that most of the time you feel like you don't know the subject that you are studying, because you you just are at the boundaries, and some things, maybe a couple of things in the world, like know that, and so you feel this like uncertainty of studying things or trying to learn them, and at the same time knowing that there is no way that you can know all of them. And this was a huge struggle. And in one of my exams at my PhD, I freaked out the night before because I thought I was definitely not prepared to actually give the exam. And I was kind of desperate. I was like, I have no idea. I'm not prepared. Yeah, I'm gonna fail this exam. And then the day after, I went and I gave the exam, and the professor told me it's been one of the best exams that I've ever seen. And I was like, this is impossible, because I didn't know this stuff, But it's all about being able to think and to make a sense of new things that you are not comfortable with just yet. And another huge struggle, so PhDs are full of struggles, is the fact that when you start in this new immensely vast area of research, you immediately have tons of ideas. And these ideas are basically divided into two things. The ones that don't work and the ones that have been published already. And this is an illusion, of course, right? Because otherwise no one would ever advance research. But still, when you start seeing this as a student, it's really overwhelming. And the thing that you need to learn is not to take as a failure the ideas that don't work. But this I understood only later on. I actually understood this during my postdoc, when one day my postdoc advisor, he told me, like, we were trying a new idea and it didn't work. And he would tell me, if every idea worked the first time, what would you learn? And this was, yeah, this is clearly very true. But it takes a while to process this during your PhD. So concerning the part about deciding to be a professor, I had a lot of hints during my studies that I wanted to be a professor, but I kind of didn't realize that yet. So for example, when I was right out of high school, if someone would ask me, what do you want to do after, what do you want to do, like, when you're an adult, like when you, and what I would say was, I don't know, I want to go to conferences and write books and papers, but I never connected this like to the job of like being a professor. And then, like, yeah, I started doing my PhD because I was curious and I love to study, but I always considered on the side the possibility of being a professor, but never really said, yeah, I want to do that. And it was more during my postdoc that I got to see also my postdoc advisor, what was he doing, what was he working on, the way that he was working, that really made me say, yes, this is what I want to do. So the teaching, the research, the pitching ideas. Yeah, I really loved that parts of the job.
Yeah, I agree, because doing a postdoc really gives us a flavor of what is expected from a professor. So
Yeah.
then we can assess ourselves and decide, okay, we want to take that path or not.
Yeah, because as a student, you mostly only see the research part, and you're doing just that one thing. I mean,
Yeah.
not just that, there is teaching and other things, but still, you don't have the complete picture.
Yep. So what was the best achievement during your stay at MIT? What projects would you like to
So
highlight?
yeah, okay, so this was a project, I'm going to describe it, but like the fun part was that when my postdoc advisor came to me and said, yeah, there is this project, I honestly thought it was impossible and way too hard. And long story ended that we submitted the paper a couple of months ago. So it's kind of a success story, we made it. But the problem was that we needed to simulate with computational modeling, basically the dynamics of tons of filaments, maybe 1,000, hundreds or thousands of filaments falling through air and interacting with each other. So you would need, when you want to model this problem, you want to model of course, the dynamic of the filament, and then you want to model the fluid flow of the air. and you want to model the fluid structure interaction between, between these, but also the contact interactions between each pair of filaments. And to simulate this, I thought it was really insanely impossible. And we started working on it like in a team, and step by step, like breaking up the problem in small pieces, we were able to do the computational model, and we were able to reproduce some experimental results that are very cool, and that show that depending on how dense is this cloud of filaments falling, and how many of these filaments are there, you can see this cloud, like in some cases breaking up into smaller clouds, or in some cases like forming a torus. And this all comes from the interaction of the fluid with the structure, with the properties between the fluid once and the filaments once, and also, of course, how close they are and how much they interact with contact. And this was really a very complex project, and it was really tough to model, and it took us a while to figure it out, but we made it. So this was very cool.
Well, congratulations. Good to
Yeah.
know that.
We'll see if the paper is successful.
Okay, Bianca. So now is the right time that maybe you show us some of your exciting research. So tell us a little bit about your recent projects.
Sure. The highlights that I'm going to present are work that I've done during my PhD at the Politecnico di Milano, my postdoc at MIT, and finally here at TU Delft. During my career as a researcher, I've tackled problems in several areas of science and engineering. And reflecting on what is the common thread of my research to date, I can say that I develop scalable computational models for problems that, for some of their characteristics, require specialized approaches in the mathematical formulation, in the software implementation, and or in the deployment of the algorithms. And this can happen for a variety of reasons. For example, to combine two computational approaches into a new one that inherits the best of both approaches, as I did in my PhD thesis on a hybrid smeared sharp computational model for fractal propagation, or to simulate the mechanical response of materials in extreme environments undergoing extreme deformations, such as ballistic impact or explosion. You definitely need scalable computational models when you want to run simulations at very large scales involving millions or even billions of degrees of freedom, for example, in geophysics application and in aerospace. In other applications, the problem size is not even that bad, like in this case, but you need a high fidelity model accounting for multi-physics, like in the case of the simulation of the complex dynamics of filaments in viscous flow, where you want to simulate the interaction of each filament with each other through contact and through the fluid flow. Finally, the nonlinearities in play can be so strong that standard approaches would simply not work. Problems like these occur every day in a variety of fields ranging from geophysics, aerospace, defense, mechanical, and bioengineering. But what all these problems have in common is that they cannot be easily modeled today with standard simulation tools. So let me go a little more in depth into three applications that I think are the most interesting. The first project that I'd like to discuss is about computational modeling of materials in extreme environments. In extreme environments, experimentation is expensive and might even involve safety concerns. So computational modeling can provide insights that would be otherwise very costly or impossible to obtain. On the left, we see the simulation of a ballistic impact on a Dyneema armor overlaid by a box of clay backing material. Simulations show the lamination of the armor and separation and indentation of the backing material. This project was carried out in collaboration with the US Department of Defense to assess whether the clay indentation was an effective criterion to evaluate the performance of soldier protections and therefore to evaluate the injury of the person behind the armor. On the right, we see a computational experiment done with NASA to validate our fracture finite element framework. In the animation, you can see the fragmentation of a pressurized helium tank, whose dimension match the geometry of that on Apollo Saturn V rocket. Specifically here, we were interested in predicting the number of fragments depending on the pressurization rate. As a second project that I would like to present, some recent work I've done in the area of computational analysis of elastic instabilities in soft matter. Soft materials have been recently widely used because of their ubiquitous application to tissue engineering, regenerative medicine, soft robots, only to name a few, but also because of the very interesting physics that emerges in their mechanical response. So here I show pictures from experiments of Professor Zhao's lab at MIT on cylindrical hydrogel samples. Owing to their high water content, hydrogels are inherently nearly incompressible, which makes them prone to develop instabilities under large deformations. In this experiment, the hydrogel sample is attached to its circular faces to two parallel substrates, which are then pulled apart from each other at a slow rate. Initially, the deformation proceeds in an axisymmetric manner, where at a certain stretch, the axial symmetry breaks and the surface becomes unstable, evolving into sinuous geometric patterns. So the design of a computational model to reproduce this experiment was non-trivial due to the near incompressibility of the material, to the sinuous deformation patterns which demand high resolution, and to the highly non-monotonic response which may exhibit complex snaps. It is important to simulate these instabilities as they can lead to stress localization and therefore to material failure. As last project that I would like to discuss, the computational modeling of clouds of fibers falling in viscous flow. There is a nice video that shows basically the experiment that we would like to simulate, which unfortunately I cannot show for copyright reasons, but you can find it on YouTube if you search Ultimate Confetti Cannon. So here, instead of showing you that video, I showed the simulation of flexible filaments shot at different orientations. So from both the confetti video and also from this simulation, we observed that as they fall, filaments buckle and start leading on one side. So some fall forward, some fall backward, while some other at critical orientations take longer to the side, and for this reason, they will fall slower. The computational model needs to describe the deformation of the filaments, the fluid flow, and the coupling between the two, being the dynamics determined by the competition between elastic energy, viscous, and gravitational forces. In addition, contact interactions also need to be described. So on the right is a short simulation demonstrating fiber-fiber contact. Putting it all together, we developed a robust framework that was able to reproduce experimental results on the evolution of a cloud of weakly flexible fibers. Furthermore, we were able to push the computational framework at higher fiber flexibilities beyond the feasibility limit of experiments, which become more and more difficult to perform as the number of fibers and the fiber flexibility increase. In this picture, you can observe that the dynamics is highly dependent on the flexibility of the fibers. For example, clouds with weakly flexible fibers will break earlier and form fewer subclouds than clouds with highly flexible fibers. I would like to conclude these highlights by acknowledging all the researchers who have contributed to the work that I've shown. My mentor, Professor Raul Radovitsky, his team at MIT, the lab head, Professor Giannopoulos, Dr. Lin and Professor Zhao, who manufactured the hydrogels and did experiments, and Professor Cohen and her team for providing fundamental theoretical insights on the elastic instabilities. Thank you.
Okay, that was an exciting bunch of projects. Thank you for sharing your research, Bianca. So now the next question is, how did you develop your research vision? How did you find out the research gaps in your field? What was the thought process behind it?
Yeah, so I think that the best way to do that is like to start early during your postdoc, to start laying up a document in which you start stating your own vision and have a lot of feedback from people and mentors and people that you trust, and from different fields and for different perspectives. So this is definitely one important way to develop your own research vision. Other than that, I think it's very important that one is used to give presentations, because there is this thing, a lot of people thinks that or puts too much emphasis on the research itself, but not so much emphasis on actually presenting research. And the communications of research is as important as research per se. And so if you start getting used to presenting your work and also presenting your work to diverse audiences, you also are exposed to a lot of like early feedback on your research and on your research vision. So I think that these two things together are fundamental to prepare for a faculty career and for the faculty job market. Another very important thing, as I mentioned earlier, is about mentors. So I've had, and I've always looked for mentorship during my postdoc. My one of my first mentors was actually my postdoc advisor, and he taught me a lot of things beyond research per se. He also taught me a lot about the job, so a lot about how do you prepare a course, how do you teach very difficult things to students, how do you present research, how do you present research ideas to maybe sponsors who are not the scientific experts in that specific, may not be the scientific experts in that specific field. So all these things together were really a great preparation for the faculty interviews.
Yeah, that's great. So, so you recently received the Caltech Young Investigator Award. How did it feel to receive that prestigious award, and what skills and actions you think helped you to, be there?
Yeah, I mean, it felt great. I was actually not expecting it, so that was really, they came really like a very nice surprise. And I think what helped me was that I actually worked very hard during my postdoc. I tried to work on, as you've seen, on many different projects from each other. And that is actually something that in the end is very much appreciated, that like you have experience on different topics and not only on your own PhD thesis, for example. And it was awesome to actually go there to Caltech and for the first time in my life, give a seminar about my work. So before, of course, I did like all the, I don't know, group meeting presentations, and you present to conferences, and then you give your graduation presentation at the end and your PhD defense. But still, that was the first chance that I got to have to give a full seminar to like the whole department there. So to people who, again, were not the experts in my own field, like it is when you give a talk to a conference, for example. And that gave me the chance to start practicing my job market seminar, even though that talk that I gave at Caltech was still much earlier than and very different in the end than my job market seminar. But it also gave me the chance to meet a lot of faculty there and to start practicing these half-an-hour interviews that you have, right? When you interview for a faculty job, and you need to jump like from the office of one to the office of one another and talk to a lot of people and switch, like the discussion like very fast, because everyone, of course, has different interests. So that gave me the chance also to practice that. So it was a real gym of preparation before the actual interviews at the job market.
Wow, that worked really well.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. So how is the experience being professor at TU Delft? How are the first few years going?
Very well. The TU Delft is really cool. What I like a lot of here is that we have very broad faculty. So at TU Delft, there is the Faculty of Aerospace Engineering, and there are 4 departments. So the department I'm in is only on aerospace structures and materials. So they have 4 different departments, and so the background of people within one department, and in my department in particular, is very diverse. And there is a lot of teamwork. So there is a lot of preparing proposals together in teams of other assistant professors or more experienced faculty members who have different experiences and different point of views than yours. So it's very much collaborative here, and I really enjoy to work with very smart colleagues. So that worked out great. I'm learning right now how to stay in the back of in research, right? Because I'm learning now to delegate to the actual research to my PhD students and master students. So that that has been actually very tough, but I'm learning.
Okay, so you mentioned tough. So what is the toughest part of being a faculty? Are there
Yeah,
more things?
it's this one. It's really watching your students having fun doing the actual work and you sitting in the back. And this it's because basically this is something that I'm learning and realizing now. It's that the work, the job of like doing research changes, because when you're a student you are clearly much closer to the actual subject and to the actual specific research challenge, whereas when you're a professor you take care of the vision. So you want to see where are we going with this research, what is the long-term aim, and how would you structure these in research projects in such a way that we can achieve a specific vision in the end. So, and that is very different than working on a or more single projects at the same time. So that that one of sitting in the back has been my the tough, definitely the toughest part. And I was warned by this actually by my postdoc advisor, who was always saying, oh, you get to do all the fun things and I get to do all the like grants writing, right? And yeah, I mean, I never realized that it was actually true, and it's really awkward now to be on the other side. So the side in which you watch your student, they show you like all these programs and results, and you're like, oh my god, this must have been so fun to do.
Yeah, how difficult is to get funding there at your institution? Because
Well,
most of the time, like getting the research grants is one of the toughest parts of being a faculty. So you didn't
yeah,
do.
no, I mean it's tough. It's tough. Clearly, most of the funding comes from the EU,
Okay.
but there is also a lot of government funding here. So the good part is that there is a lot of, as I was saying, collaboration. So you get to work on many proposals at the same time, but clearly not. It's not just you in one proposal, so you can split the work with your colleagues. So yeah, it's tough and competitive. Yeah.
Okay. So what is the most satisfying part of being a professor?
So, you know, I will, so the answer is exactly the same of before.
Yeah.
Because, again, yeah, watching your students doing the research independently and learning the way that, that like you teach them how to do certain things, that is for sure the most satisfying part of a professor's career.
Yeah. And then how is the experience when you are teaching a class? Like, are like, do you like that, or do you
I
like?
love teaching. I love teaching that much. It's actually so much fun. And when I'm in the classroom, I actually like just think about the subject I'm teaching and the students, and it's really disconnecting for me. Like I disconnect from everything else, and I'm just there and I'm teaching. It's really awesome, and it's so beautiful to see when the students learn and when it clicks, you know. And I also like it a lot when students actually don't learn immediately and they keep asking questions, and then it's really become challenging, right, to try to convince them sometimes. And then eventually when you make it, it's really, really satisfying.
Yeah. Okay. So how does your typical work day look like? And how do you stay motivated every day?
Yeah, I mean, there is no typical day, right? So yeah, like my day is divided between teaching, which includes of course the time in the classroom, but also the time preparing the materials for the classroom, for the lectures, and of course the time like preparing the exams and so on. So that is one chunk. And then I would say that a lot of my time goes into proposal writing. And this is again divided into the actual writing part and the part in which you are pitching ideas to potential sponsors or partners. And when you are basically brainstorming with colleagues to try and come up with the next great idea to be funded. So this is another part of my day, but it's not that it's it doesn't have clearly a rigid division. And another part of my day is when, of course, I meet with my students and we have the weekly meetings of update on research. And that is also a very fun part. And I also enjoy a lot when I have like immediate requests from help, like on Slack from my students, because then I really get to do some hands-on work and help them and dive into the bugs maybe in the code, why is not this working, or when they say, oh, I found this amazing idea, what do you think of it? Then it's really makes me jump to that topic immediately. And if I have the luck that I'm actually free, that half an hour, that is really a very fun half an hour to be at.
Yeah, so you mentioned fun. So what do you do for fun, and how do you decompress and, ensuring a good work-life balance as a professor?
Yeah, so like there is no work-life balance. This is the first thing. No, I'm just kidding. So when I was at MIT, I used to go and play water polo in the MIT team. Like of course I couldn't be on the team because I was a postdoc. But still, it was a lot of fun to be at the practice and to help them practice. So I'm a big fan of sports. So I love water polo. I love soccer. I ski a lot. So whenever I have the chance, for example, in these holidays, I was in Italy skiing. I got 3 weeks of skiing. That was really awesome. And at MIT, I used to do some sailing. Because that was really a nice way to disconnect, and sailing on the river, like with MIT on one side and Boston on the other side, was really, really a lot of fun. But a lot of these sports actually are not compatible, have not been compatible with COVID recently. So recently I took on a new hobby that is painting. And I used to paint when I was a child, and I kind of never painted anymore. And then like being at home, like during the lockdown, I was like, I'm so bored, I don't know what to do. At first I started cooking a lot, like fresh Italian pasta. And then I took on painting. So I was definitely looking for a hobby. And I love to paint. It's very cool. That is also helps a lot to disconnect. I think what helps the most, though, is to really take some time off every once in a while, because especially with COVID, like if you are at home and you're used to work from home a big chunk of your time, we kind of have, we don't know anymore how to disconnect from work. So before COVID, right, like you work when you're in the office, and then when you're at home, and the two things do not overlap. Instead, like these interfaces become blurred and blurred as the lockdown was raging. And and now it's become really important, I think, to take time off and like go someplace else and just disconnect, not even bring your computer with you, send up those crappy automatic replies at your email and then saying I will deal with this when I'm back. So that I think helps.
Yeah, I totally agree to whatever you said.
Yeah.
And I relate to the painting and cooking part. That is happening with me too. I'm painting now.
So when you ask also how do you stay motivated? I think a big contributions on that comes from actually the students, because the students have a lot of energy, a lot of motivation, and both in research, master and PhD students, then and students that I teach to, they are really an infinite source of energy and motivation. So research is, as we were saying before, can be very frustrating because you're actually used to things that, like, ideas that don't work, of course, the first time, because otherwise they would be trivial, right? And so, like, we need to get the motivation somewhere at the end of the day. And maybe the students don't know this, but they are our source of motivation eventually.
Yeah, true. I was going to say that's the reward of being a professor or a teacher, that they are learning from us and we are also learning from them.
Yeah, this is so much true.
Yeah. So going to the next question, how do you succeed every day towards the fully tenured position? And what traits do you think are, most crucial to develop or enhance to be a successful professor?
Yeah, so I think so at least I can tell you what I try to do, and then we will see if it's successful in the end. I try to learn as much as possible from the people that I have around me. I have, of course, like everyone when they start, a lot of more experienced colleagues, and I try to listen to them as much as possible. The same way that I was trying to listen as much as possible to my mentors earlier. And this is not because you necessarily need to do what they say and like follow what they suggest, right? But they help you to like complete the picture and to have like a broad view of life as a professor. And yeah, so I think this is absolutely fundamental, because if we learn as much as possible from people who have more experience than us, then this is all experience that we get pretty much for free, because they actually gain that by living it, whereas we would just gain it by listening to them. So I think this is definitely very important. And the second thing that I've tried to do in the last couple of years is that of not investing only on research, but also on communicating research. So I realized that there is a lot of difference, of course, between a presentation in which people don't understand most of what you're saying, because maybe you are not really putting a lot of effort in explaining things in a linear manner, than in a presentation that is crystal clear. And maybe the research behind it can be exactly the same, but still they have a completely different impact. And research at the end of the day is a lot about impact. So if you have the best research ever, but in your papers or in your presentations, you're not able to convey what is the innovation that you're proposing, and what is your contributions with respect to the state of the art, and why what you do is relevant, then your research will not be impactful. So these are my 2 cents about being a professor, and we will see if that works out well.
Well, we wish you the best. It will work out. So I have one additional question. Like, do you think there are some, additional challenges of being a professor as a woman versus, as a man? Like, for example, increased responsibilities at home, or like different thinking process, or societal pressure. Are there
Well,
any challenges?
so I think that there is sometimes some pressures that like it's ourselves that are putting on ourselves. And so many times I notice that I'm maybe the only female in a meeting, and I just notice these things. But it doesn't mean that it's necessarily adds some extra pressure, but still these are things that one simply notices. And so concerning like organizing life with like personal life, I think it's also a matter of like how do you divide the work with your partner, for example. So if like there is a clear division of the work and everyone contributes, then it's completely feasible. But still, I don't have kids, so maybe you should ask me the same question a couple of years down the road.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all the things about yourself. And in the end, I would request you to give a message to aspiring women leaders. What would you say to them, how to succeed and how to stay resilient in this career?
I think that the fundamental thing that I also always say to high school students or students at university when they ask me a tip is, don't be the one who puts limits on yourself. don't ever not do something because you think that you're not able to, or that you're not good enough. But if you have the passion and you believe in what you're doing, just keep doing it. Because there are a lot of instances in which, someone just feels, I don't know, someone else is better at this than me, so why should I do it and not them? But then if you don't try it, and if you are not the first one thinking that they can make it, then clearly you will never gonna make it, and you will convince yourself that you cannot make it. So I think it's important, like, not to not to be the one who constrain themselves, but always try to follow what interests you, what are your passions, and because that is the way I think that you can be successful.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great advice. I mean, the life has a lot of challenges already, so we shouldn't be a challenge to ourselves.
Yeah, this is so true.
Yeah. So with this note, I would like to thank you again for joining us. It's such a pleasure to, learn from you. And I am sure that a lot of women will be inspired by the conversation we had today. And I look forward to stay connected and, organize more of mentorship events where women can benefit from each other. So
Sure.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think this that you're doing is very important. So thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for joining us from Netherlands. Okay, bye.
Bye.